2017 marks a major milestone for Premiere over its 25-year history of innovation. With the spring 2017 release of Premiere Pro, you'll see powerful new workflows with new ways to make titles, motion graphics, and a new approach to working with audio that couldn't be easier. We're also introducing a whole new level of integration for Premiere Pro when working with AfterEffects and Audition. Editors looking to monetize their work and reach millions of creative buyers can now submit video content directly to Adobe Stock via Premiere Pro. Remember, contributing to Adobe Stock will give you the opportunity to earn royalties and extra exposure for your creative work. Expanding on our VR, we've now got support for Ambisonic audio export. We've even added new support for tactile input technologies for Apple's Touch Bar and Microsoft's Dial support. You can find the Dial support in Dell's Canvas Totem products or Microsoft Dial devices. And lastly, we've added DynamicLink for our beta release of team projects when working with AfterEffects and Premiere. Let's jump over to the tech table and check it out. The first thing you might notice in the tools area is we have two brand new tools which allow you to type directly on the program monitor, either in normal type or vertical type. You'll also notice we have a brand new pen tool for drawing graphics directly on the program monitor, as well as rectangles and ellipse tools for setting up various elements in your graphics. Let's jump over to the new title workspace and take a look at the brand new panel called Essential Graphics. As I start to add elements to my new graphic or my new title, you'll start to see this area populate. Let me show you what I mean. As you'll see, I can now type directly on the program monitor. The Essential Graphics panel now shows the text layer that I've just typed, along with some align and transform controls for that selected layer. I have a new layer button that I can now click and add additional text or shapes, and even grab an element from a file. I'll open up an Illustrator file and import another element. And now you see I've got two layers inside my Essential Graphics panel. You can change the stacking order as you would expect just by clicking on the layer, moving it up or down in the layer stack. Let's make a few adjustments to this text. I'll start by grabbing my selection tool and taking my logo and just moving it off to the side, and then selecting my text and just start to work with it. As you'll see, you have a very complete set of tools as you start to work with the text. The first thing we'll do is work on the type style. If you put your mouse pointer in the area of the font field and you just scroll up or down, you'll notice that you can preview your font directly on screen until you find the look that you want. You can also just put your mouse in the font text field and just type the first letter of the font you're looking for, just as you would expect from any other Adobe app. I'm going to just color pick within my logo right here to grab that yellow. Next, I'll start just by modifying the size of the text, and I can do that either with a slider or just typing in directly. I'll add some additional text, and then start to place that where I want it. I'll add one last layer to create a rectangle background. I'll bring the opacity down, maybe even add a stroke on that. And finally, change the layer order and the layer name. If we take a closer look at the effects controls area, you'll start to see all of those shapes and text layers that I've created appear inside the effects controls. This actually gives you more precise control when you want to animate or change that element even further. Let's take a closer look by adding keyframes to these elements. You'll notice under my background shape layer here that I can keyframe things like path and appearance, and I even have separate transform controls for that one element. Let's start by changing the opacity to 0, adding a keyframe, moving that up just a few frames, and then punching that back up to about 15%. I'll go ahead and animate all these other layers and then show you the final step. And as you see, I've added various keyframes for each of those elements. Let's take a quick preview. If you want to reuse this graphic and its animation, all you have to do is select the item in the sequence, right mouse click, and export as a motion graphics template. You'll notice in the Essential Graphics panel that there's a Browse tab. When you go here, you'll notice that there's another folder called Install Motion Graphics Template. You can select the motion graphics template that you've just created and import that in. We've also got several other categories of motion graphic templates that we've created for you as well, and you can just dive right into any of those just by double-clicking and then dragging and dropping any of these onto the timeline and taking a quick look. You'll also see that there's a number of templates that we create that start with AE, and that stands for After Effects. So let's take a look at how some of these controls get added to a motion graphics template. For that, I'm going to jump over to After Effects. I'll start by creating a quick new comp. I'll add some quick text. From the Essential Graphics panel, I'm going to go ahead and select Composition 1 and toggle down my title text layer and then grab the source text and drag it into the Essential Graphics. This is now adding a field that will allow me to change the text. Let's add a skew property as well. To make this a little different, you can also add some effects. So I'll go over to my effects presets and I'll just type in one that I use all the time called Fractal. As we start to drill down into our effects and take a closer look at all the properties that are available in the fractal effect, there are actually a number of them that are not yet available in the Essential Graphics panel. So to help you know which ones are available, you can click on the Solo Supported Properties button, and that will go ahead and filter out all the properties that are available to you. To help separate my fractal controls, I'm going to add a comment. And I'll drag those controls into the panel. And as you'll quickly see, we're really starting to build a very unique motion template. The last step is just to export this out so Premiere Pro can use it. You're going to want to save your project so you can update this motion graphics template at any time. Let's jump over to Premiere and take a look at the template. Now I'll just import that template and add it to my folder. And then drag that onto my sequence. Now let's make a few adjustments. I'll start by just scaling this up a bit, then putting that right where I want it. Now I'll go over to the Essential Graphics panel and change my text. You can use your arrow key to make adjustments up or down to get the exact look that you're looking for. And let's take a look at this at full screen. Looks pretty awesome. And one last thing, you can save these motion graphic templates right to your Creative Cloud library. So if you log into another machine, you'll have those available to you in your Creative Cloud libraries, or if you happen to invite other users to share your library media, you have that available to you as well. For any advanced After Effects users out there that use expressions, you'll find that you can create custom sliders to create your own custom controls for motion graphics templates. Here's one that we created that shows several custom sliders to control various colors, intensity, and even the speed of the swoosh. You can create null objects and attach expression sliders to those. Let's see how this works in Premiere Pro. Inside of Premiere, this works exactly like you would expect. So you might notice that the text was a little fast. Let's see how we can control this. I'll make the swoosh a little slower, and I'll change the color. And that's a wrap for the Essential Graphics panel. And as you can see, it's a really unique workflow for both Premiere and AfterEffects users. In this version of Premiere Pro, we're giving you a really easy way to start working with all different types of sound, whether it's music, sound effects, ambient noise, and even dialogue. We're introducing this new panel in much the same way that we introduced color with the Lumetri Color panel. Under the new audio workspace, you'll see you have a brand new panel called Essential Sound. We've broken the audio types down into dialogue, music, sound effects, and ambience. Let's start with something simple like the music track. If I click on the music track, then to Essential Sound and tell it that that track is music, I can do things like under the loudness settings, auto match if there's more than one music track. I can change the duration. This is really handy when you have a clip that's either too short or slightly too long. You can make slight adjustments without really affecting the pitch. Again, great for small adjustments. And obviously down at the bottom here, you can see that I can adjust levels. Let's do something that's a bit more complex. I'm going to switch over to my clip mixer here, and then I'm going to select all of my clips on tracks A1 through A4, which are the bartender and the two guys talking at the bar. We want to work on their conversations. Their levels are all off. Let's go ahead and take a listen.
Okay.
Great. I'd like an elderberry.
And as you can hear, the second guy that's talking, it's very hard to pick up his voice. So the first thing we might want to do is set those auto levels. To do that is really easy. Again, I'm going to select all the tracks, go up to dialogue, and click auto match. Let's go ahead and play that back.
I'd like to get a drink, please.
Okay.
Great. I'd like an elderberry liqueur.
The levels are already sounding better. Now let's jump in and make a few more refinements. I'm going to select the tracks again, and let's take a look at reducing some of the rumble and maybe a little bit of the noise, and certainly let's dehum that a bit. Let's go ahead and kick this up a little bit, and we'll bring the hum down maybe to around 3 or so. And I'm going to go ahead and reduce some of that noise. Let's go ahead and play that back.
Oh, actually, we don't have that.
I've been here before, and I've definitely had it here, so...
Let's try to work on some of the area noise and see if we can make the room a bit larger. I'll start by soloing my track number 5, which is my ambient noise, as you can see here on my label. I'll select this track, click Ambience, click the reverb, select large room. Since I've got multiple clips, I'm going to go ahead and auto match those as well. And I'll just make that room sound a little bit larger. And I also want to give it a bit more of a wide stereo presence when I play this back. So I'm going to just crank this up a bit. And let's hear what this sounds like. Yeah, that definitely sounds better. So now I'm going to play them both back and see how we did. I'm going to unsolo this.
Okay.
Great. I'd like an elderberry liqueur.
Oh,
Definitely better. Now to show you what's really happening behind the scenes, I'm going to go ahead and bring up my effects controls panel and just click on any of the clips that I've been working with. You can continue to edit the effect by clicking on the edit button and bringing up even more controls. And as you can see, what's actually happening here, if I go to reduce noise, by moving this slider up and down, I'm actually moving all of those sliders. So the Essential Sound is really trying to make this easy for you, again, while at the same time allowing you to go to edit and make even more refinements. If you find that you need to continue to make even more audio adjustments, or you just have a lot more audio work to do, you can always select the sequence and send that right over to Adobe Audition. The first thing you'll notice if I select any of these clips is that the Essential Sound panel, which originated in Adobe Audition, you can see all of those settings came right through, as well as those effects that were listed in Premiere Pro as well. And you'll see if I double click on it, I'm getting the same control right here. You'll find the experience very consistent. And again, this is going to allow you to narrow down that audio refinement even more. Another great feature in this release is the ability to contribute to Adobe Stock directly from Premiere Pro. When you're ready to export, you can pick a format like H.264 or QuickTime. There are other formats available, and you can get that information from the Adobe Stock contributors site. I'm going to go ahead and pick a ProRes preset that I've created. Click on Publish, then Adobe Stock, and I've already logged myself in, and then click Export. As you'll see, it will do the encoding and then upload the video. The video you see here is one that I submitted earlier this year, and if I go under Libraries and I do a quick search, I can easily find my video. And as you can see, being an Adobe Stock contributor is really easy. For those of you using Creative Cloud for Teams or Creative Cloud Enterprise, you have the ability to share your projects using Creative Cloud. If you haven't seen this, I'll give you a quick idea of how this works. Click on Open Team Project and either select a new team project or click on one that you're already working on. If I need to invite additional people to this team project, I can go ahead and add their Creative Cloud email addresses here. Once the team project checks all the items in, I can now see the current status of the team project. The first thing you look for is to see if anyone else has made changes to the project. If the down arrow is lit, then that indicates that there's changes that you need to download before you start working on your project. You click on the up arrow, as you'll see in a minute, after you make changes and you want to share those with other team members. You can also see the team members that are invited by looking up here in the Team Project panel. I can click on the plus if I need to add another team member to the project. Another useful setting under the Edit menu, Team Project, is the ability to convert a Premiere Pro project into a team project or a team project back to a Premiere Pro project. You might do this for a variety of reasons. I usually start my team projects out as a standard Premiere Pro project, get my bin set the way that I want it, get a couple of my sequences with my rough cuts in there, and then go ahead and share that with the rest of the team. As you start to work with this, there might be reasons for you to want to convert the team project back to a standard project so you can continue to work on it solo, or maybe use it for a different project. You'll see as you start to work with team projects, they're really flexible. One of the big changes that we're adding to team projects for this release is the ability to have AfterEffects compositions in the same team project, which now allows AfterEffects users and Premiere users to be working on the same team project. Here's a quick example of how this works. Here inside of AfterEffects, I'm going to go open up the team project, and as you see, I see the same team projects that I had in Premiere Pro. I'll click on the team project that I want to open. As you see, it checks the project in, and it looks basically exactly the same way as it looked in Premiere Pro. So I have a composition here where I've added some rain on a standard solid layer, and when I jump back to Premiere Pro and I clicked on Get Latest Changes, the AfterEffects composition was added to my project. And you can see the rain effect. Now let's jump back over to AfterEffects and make an additional change. Within AfterEffects, I'm going to go ahead and add some quick text. And then add a quick effect on the text. And now I can go back to my team project, upload my changes, and add a quick comment so I can share with my team members the change that I just made. And share. I'll make a quick adjustment to this composition by bringing the opacity down just a little bit to fade that rainfall out and see how that looks. If I like that change, I'll go ahead and submit the change to the rest of the team. You might be wondering where all the comments are stored as the team members were contributing their changes to the project. You can see the list of comments by clicking on the Media browser, then looking under Creative Cloud and clicking on the project that you're working on. You'll notice in the upper right-hand corner of this panel, you can see a time slider that allows you to go back in time and watch assets that are added or subtracted, as well as the comments that users had uploaded. And as you can see, the power of Creative Cloud and its syncing capabilities for team projects makes working together amazingly easy. In this version of Premiere Pro, we're introducing our initial support for Ambisonic audio along with some new VR controls and effects. One of the most important things to remember when working with VR audio is the proper setup of your sequence, and we've made a few presets to help guide you. Let's start by just creating a new sequence where you see some Ambisonic presets. The footage I'll be using today is stereoscopic. I'm going to go ahead and select 2880 Ambisonic. I also want to point out in this area here that we've put a note that points out a very important preference that you need to make sure you set. Within Premiere Pro's audio preferences, ensure that the multi-channel monomedia default track option is set to adaptive. Let me show you where that is. Under your preference settings, go to Audio, Multi-channel monomedia, and you see that I've got it set to adaptive, and that's all you have to do. Now you'll notice on the timeline, my master track is set to 4 channels of audio, and I have a few other tracks that are also set to 4 channel. I'll drag my video on my track and then drag my Ambisonic mic audio onto the second track. You'll see when I expand the track that there's multi-channel audio on the 4 tracks. Now what we need to do is align the audio from the camera, which is in blue, to the audio from the Ambisonic microphone, which is in green. You'll see when my friend Steve created this video that he produces a clap sound to help me align the microphone and the camera audio together. So all I'm going to do is listen for the spike. All right, that sounds right. Move this audio track where I think that spike sound is, which should be about right there, and zoom in a bit more. I'm going to hold down the Option key on my Mac or Control on Windows and then hit my left arrow key to help align this audio, and then listen for the sound and also watch my meters to see if I've got these in sync. It looks pretty good, so I think I'm going to go with that. And now I'm just going to trim this to where I want it. And now that looks pretty good. And I no longer need the camera mic because I was just using that for aligning the Ambisonic audio. So I'm going to go ahead and mute that out. And now I'm ready to begin my work. I'm going to go ahead and put the program monitor in VR mode. So I don't have my VR toggle button here. So I'm going to hit the plus sign and go ahead and add that. Now when I click the VR toggle display button, I'm now looking at my VR projection correctly. The next thing you want to do is start to work on aligning your audio and your video together and just listen to see if they were set up correctly. One way you can achieve this is just to go to your audio track mixer, bring down your effects rack, and then under the master effects area, just click the top button, go to special, and you'll see that we have an Ambisonic binauralizer effect as well as a panner effect. I'm going to go ahead and select the binauralizer as that's the one you typically use the most. And you'll notice it brings up a dial. The dial will allow me to go to 180 in either direction. And what I'm going to want to do is set this dial to match the sound of the waves in front of me. So the next thing you're going to want to do is turn on your controls under VR video. And I've got them currently set to hide controls, and you'll notice that when I uncheck this, it does make the preview window a little smaller, but it also gives me some controls that I can now control where I'm looking. And one thing you can do for monitoring purposes is go ahead and set these up to be the same. So when I'm listening to my audio here in my headphones, and again, you want to listen to this in your headphone, and you'll notice that when I go back to my track here, now that that effect is on, it's just monitoring right and left. And what I'm listening for is to make sure that that sound of the ocean is sort of in the middle of my head, if you will, in the middle of my earphone. So the sound isn't too far left or isn't too far right. If it is, then you can go in and adjust this up here to figure out where that sweet center spot is. Once you know this number here, then you can come over to your program monitor here and just punch in the visual number that you need to align the video and the audio together, and then you can play that back to make sure that that looks correct. Again, this is just for monitoring. When you're done with this and you think that you kind of know this number and you've got a number to work with, now you can go ahead and just turn that effect off. And you'll also notice when you turn the effect off that it will bring back all 4 channels. Under the effects, you'll also notice that if you type in Ambisonic, you'll also see we have controls for the binauralizer here and the panner here as well, which you can drag onto a track and make adjustments if you need to. And you'll see that you've got pan, tilt, and roll controls as well. You'll also notice under the effects, we have a new VR projection effect that I can use to keyframe some video. I'm going to go up to my effects rack, and I'm going to set the input of the video, which I know was shot in a stereoscopic over-under, and I'm going to go to my output, and I'm going to output it the same way. So that ensures that what's coming in matches what's going out. In some cases, by the way, if you had brought a graphic in or something like that, that would be, a mono coming in, but you want it to come out stereo. So the reason you have an in and an out, it depends on the originating source and what you need to map it to. So that's sort of what that's telling you. Now what you can do is use the pan setting to keyframe from right to left. So I'm going to set a keyframe here. I'm going to move this out just a little bit, and then I'm just going to pan just a little to the right. And you'll notice when I wind this back and I play it, I've got a nice slow pan. You'll also notice that when you turn the VR toggle off and you start to use some of these controls, you also get a better idea on what's happening. And you'll notice that when you tilt or roll, you can start to see how it affects the horizon line. When you're ready to export, you just want to double check a few things. You want to make sure that if you had used this control to monitor your audio, that you have this effect turned off, or you can just set it to none, either way. And you also can check any settings that you might have under the audio. I don't need this particular binauralizer here, so I'm going to go ahead and delete that one there because my audio is fine. And let's go under File, Export, and show you a few export settings. I'm going to set this to H.264. Make sure that the VR video matches the type of video that you're trying to output. And here you can see that the video I'm using is over under, and it picked that up right from the sequence settings. Under audio, you want to make sure that the channels that you're outputting to maintain the Ambisonics is set to 4 channels. And when you move the slider all the way down at the bottom, you have the ability to export Ambisonics. And from here, you can just export, and it's that easy. I also want to take the time to mention that there's a lot of different things that you can do with VR, and there's a lot more detail that we're going to be getting into in future videos. So for those of you dealing with VR, keep your eyes open because we will be doing some more detailed videos and diving in to all the different settings.